The world spun, then shattered. One moment. I was Ethan Carter, a 25-year-old barista in Seattle, scrolling through my phone, laughing at a BL novel's absurd plot. The next, I was drowning in darkness, waking up as Caleb Voss, the doomed husband of a villain in that very novel. I blinked against the harsh sunlight streaming through a penthouse window, the Seattle skyline replaced by a sprawling, unfamiliar cityscape. My new reality hit like a freight train. I was Caleb, married to Adrian Blackwood, the cold, manipulative antagonist of Eternal Chains, a story I'd mocked for its melodrama. In the novel, Caleb was a spineless, clingy fool who married Adrian for money, only to be discarded when Adrian's true love, a heroic artist named Julian, entered the picture. Caleb's fate. A tragic death, alone and forgotten, after Adrian's schemes unraveled. Panic clawed at my chest. I wasn't ready to die again, not after surviving a car accident in my old life. I had to rewrite this story, starting with the one thing Caleb was good at, being insufferably clingy. If I played my cards right, maybe I could charm Adrian, keep him from spiraling into villainy, and save myself. The penthouse was a fortress of glass and steel, all sharp edges and cold luxury, much like Adrian himself. I found him in his office, a tall figure in a tailored black suit, his dark hair falling perfectly over piercing gray eyes. He didn't look up from his laptop as I entered, my heart pounding. The novel described Adrian as a master manipulator, a man who crushed anyone who crossed him. Yet, there was something magnetic about his dangerous allure that made my breath catch. Adrian, I said, forcing a bright, Caleb-like tone. You didn't kiss me goodbye this morning. I leaned against his desk, batting my eyes, fully aware of how ridiculous I sounded. His fingers froze on the keyboard. What are you doing? His voice was low, edged with irritation, but his gaze flicked to me, sharp and assessing. I grinned, leaning closer, just reminding my husband how much I love him. The words felt like swallowing glass, but I had to sell it. In the novel, Caleb's clinginess annoyed Adrian, but it also kept him tethered until Julian showed up. If I could amplify that, maybe I could delay the inevitable. Adrian's eyes narrowed. You're being extra today. Only for you, I teased, brushing my fingers against his sleeve. His jaw tightened, but he didn't pull away. A spark of hope ignited. Maybe this could work. Days turned into weeks, and I threw myself into the role of Caleb with reckless abandon. I left sticky notes with hearts on Adrian's coffee mugs, sent him flirty texts during his board meetings, and draped myself over him at every chance. To my surprise, it wasn't all an act. Adrian's rare smiles fleeting, almost reluctant, started to feel like rewards. When he laughed at one of my terrible puns, a warmth spread through me that wasn't part of the plan. But the plot loomed like a storm cloud. At a charity gala, I spotted him, Julian Hayes, the novel's hero. He was everything the book described: golden curls, warm brown eyes, and an aura of effortless charm. My stomach dropped. This was it. The moment Adrian was supposed to meet his true love and start pushing Caleb away. I clung to Adrian's arm, my smile brittle. Dance with me, I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. Adrian raised an eyebrow, but let me pull him to the dance floor. As we swayed, his hand firm on my waist, I caught Julian watching us. The novel was clear. Adrian would fall for Julian's sincerity, his art, his everything. I had to act fast. Adrian, I whispered, pressing closer. You look like you're carrying the world tonight. Let me help. He studied me, his expression unreadable. You're different lately, he said finally. Less predictable. Good different? I asked, heart racing. He didn't answer, but his grip tightened. And for a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes, something that wasn't in the script. The game was dangerous. I was rewriting a story I barely understood, and every step felt like walking a tightrope over a volcano. Adrian wasn't just a villain. He was a man drowning in his own ambition, haunted by a past the novel only hinted at. Late nights in his office revealed glimpses of Ida, brother lost to addiction, a father who saw him as a tool, a mother who left without a word. I started to see the cracks in his armor, and against my better judgment, I wanted to fix them. One night, after a particularly grueling day, I found him on the penthouse balcony, staring at the city lights. I draped a blanket over his shoulders, my usual theatrics subdued. You don't have to carry it all alone, I said softly. He turned, his face shadowed. Why do you care? Caleb. You've never cared before. The words stung, not because they were true for me, but because they were true for the old Caleb. I took a breath, choosing honesty over the act. Maybe I'm starting to see you. Really see you. For the first time, Adrian looked at me like I was more than a prop in his life. He stepped closer, his hand brushing mine, and my heart stuttered. This wasn't the novel anymore. This was real, and it terrified me. The line between Caleb and Ethan blurred. I wasn't just playing a role anymore. I was living it. Adrian's touch lingered in my mind, his rare moments of vulnerability pulling me deeper into a story I was supposed to control. But Julian was a ticking time bomb, and I could feel the plot tightening around us. Julian's presence was impossible to ignore. He was at every event Adrian attended, his easy charm drawing people like moths to a flame. At an art gallery opening, I watched him approach Adrian, his smile disarming. Your husband's lucky, Julian said, glancing at me with a warmth that felt like a blade. He's got you all to himself. Adrian's lips curved, but his eyes stayed on me. He does, he said, his tone carrying a weight I couldn't decipher. I forced a laugh, linking my arm with Adrian's, but my chest ached. Julian was perfect, the hero destined to win. How could I compete with fate? That night, I couldn't sleep. The novel's words haunted me. Adrian's heart belongs to Julian, and Caleb is merely a shadow. I paced the penthouse, my bare feet cold against the marble. When Adrian found me, his hair mussed from sleep, I froze. Why are you up? He asked, his voice softer than usual. Couldn't stop thinking, I admitted, avoiding his gaze. About us. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. Us, he echoed, like he was testing the word. You've been relentless, Caleb. Why? I wanted to scream that I was trying to survive, to rewrite a story that ended with me dead. But instead, I said, because you're worth it. His eyes widened, just for a second, before he masked it. You don't know me, he said, but there was no venom in it. Then let me, I whispered, stepping into his space. For a moment, I thought he'd push me away, but he didn't. His hand cupped my cheek, And when he kissed me, it was like the world rewrote itself. It wasn't Caleb kissing Adrian, it was Ethan. Desperate and real. The kiss changed everything. Adrian stopped treating me like an obligation. His cold demeanor thawing with every shared glance. Every quiet moment. We cooked dinner together one night, laughing when I burned the pasta. He told me about his childhood dog, a scrappy mutt named Max. And I shared stories of my old life carefully veiled as Caleb's. It felt like we were building something the novel couldn't touch. But Julian wasn't done. At a rooftop fundraiser, he cornered me while Adrian was distracted. "You're not what I expected," Julian said, his voice kind but probing. "Adrian's different with you. Happier." I wanted to hate him, but his sincerity disarmed me. "He's complicated," I said, dodging. Julian smiled, but there was a glint in his eyes. "He deserves someone who sees that." The words hit like a warning shot. Julian wasn't just the hero. He was a rival, and he was playing to win. The tension built like a storm. Adrian's company was under fire, rumors of shady deals, whispers of corruption. I knew from the novel that this was Adrian's doing, his villainous arc in full swing. But I also knew he wasn't heartless. When I found him poring over documents, stress etched into his face, I made a choice. "Adrian, stop," I said, pulling the papers away. "This isn't you." His eyes flashed with anger. "You don't understand. This is how I survive." "No," I said, my voice steady. "This is how you lose everything." He stared at me, his walls crumbling. "Why do you keep fighting for me?" he asked, almost pleading. "Because I love you," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. They weren't Caleb's words, they were mine. And they were true. Adrian didn't speak, but he pulled me into his arms, holding me like I was the only thing keeping him grounded. For the first time, I believed I could change the story. The truth was a double-edged sword. Loving Adrian meant risking everything, not just my heart, but my life. The novel's climax was coming, and I was running out of time to rewrite the ending. Adrian started to change. He pulled back from his shadier deals, redirecting his focus to legitimate projects. I saw the man he could be: brilliant, driven, but not cruel. We spent evenings on the balcony, sharing dreams we'd never dared voice. He wanted to build something lasting, not just for power, but for meaning. I wanted to believe we could have that. But Julian was relentless. At a quiet cafe meeting, he laid his cards on the table. "I care about Adrian," he said, his voice steady. "And I think you do too. But he's on a dangerous path, and I can't let him fall." I bristled, my fear masquerading as anger. "You don't get to decide what he needs." Julian leaned forward, his eyes intense. "And you do. You're so wrapped up in him. You can't see he's using you." The words cut deep, echoing the novel's warnings. Was I blind? Or was Julian just playing his role as the hero, determined to save Adrian from himself? The breaking point came at a corporate gala, the novel's pivotal scene. Adrian was set to announce a deal that would cement his villainy or his redemption. I'd spent weeks nudging him toward the latter, but doubt gnawed at me. What if I'd misjudged everything? As Adrian took the stage, I stood in the crowd, my heart in my throat. Julian was there too, his presence a silent challenge. Adrian's speech started strong, outlining a new initiative for community development, a far cry from the novel's ruthless takeover. I exhaled, hope flaring. Then it happened. A rival CEO interrupted, accusing Adrian of fraud. The room erupted in whispers, cameras flashing. I saw the panic in Adrian's eyes, the same look he'd had when he spoke of his brother's death. Without thinking, I pushed through the crowd, grabbing the microphone. Enough, I said, my voice shaking but clear. Adrian's made mistakes, but he's trying to do better. He's not the villain you want him to be. The room went silent. Adrian stared at me, his expression raw. I just exposed myself, risked everything, for a man the world saw as a monster. But I saw him, the real him. After the gala, Adrian found me on the penthouse roof, the city sprawling below us. Why did you do that? He asked, his voice hoarse. You could have walked away. I met his gaze, no longer pretending. Because I'm not Caleb. I'm Ethan. And I love you. Not the villain. Not the plot, just you. For a moment, he looked broken, like every wall he'd built had crumbled. Then he kissed me, fierce and desperate, like he was afraid I'd vanish. I don't deserve you, he whispered. But I can't let you go. The novel's ending was supposed to be tragic, Caleb dead, Adrian alone, Julian triumphant. But as we stood there, tangled in each other, I knew we'd rewritten it. Julian would move on, painting his masterpieces, saving someone else. Adrian and I would face the world together, flaws and all. Months later, we sat in a small cafe, the same one where Julian had challenged me. Adrian's hand rested on mine, his smile free of shadows. The world still whispered about his past, but he was building something new, a legacy of hope, not destruction. I'd saved him, not by clinging, but by loving him enough to see the truth. I wasn't just a character in a story anymore. I was Ethan, and I'd found my place not in a novel, but in a life we'd fought for. Together, we were unstoppable,